I like how KJP makes me feel. She gives me confidence that I could do that job. Former Biden press secretary Karine Jean-Pierre announced that she's writing a tell-all book about the Biden administration. In response, people are saying, thanks, but I just wanted a Big Mac. And when Joe Biden was asked if he's going to read the book, he replied, over my soon-to-be dead body.
She didn't expect that stepping into the press briefing would result in Greg Gutfeld transforming her remarks into a comedic segment within a minute. Karine Jean-Pierre was navigating through prepared statements, and suddenly she was the center of a sharp critique on live TV. Gutfeld didn't just challenge her points, he delivered a memorable critique with flair. If you've ever wanted to see a press secretary face sharp, well-timed commentary, you're in for an engaging performance.
All right, so Karine Jean-Pierre wrote a book, and her fans are already sharpening their crayons. And it's just what we need, a tell-all from the woman who spent 2 years telling everyone that Joe just had a cold and not rigor mortis. If the title hadn't already been taken, it should be...
Karine Jean-Pierre enters the press briefing room daily as though she's performing in a play titled Navigate, Redirect, and Respond. This show, however, lacks a clear script, just some notes, a sparse binder, and an approach that can feel somewhat improvised.
P also says she's leaving the Democratic Party. I say God bless her. Not many people have the patience to wait in a line that long. In her book, she says the White House was broken. This after 2 years along a president who wasn't housebroken. But she only realized this after she stopped getting paid to defend it. But like Jake Tapper's book, it's a new genre of Biden tell-alls that should be subtitled, I had no idea because I'm severely retarded.
At times, watching her address inquiries feels like observing a learning process in real time, unpredictable and met with varying results. Greg Gutfeld's responses appeared less confrontational and more as lighthearted observations, creating a dynamic exchange. This was less of a debate and more of an illustrative dialogue.
She realizes she was carrying water for a man whose brain was as wet as his pants. Remember, this is the same broad who stared America in the face and said this.
Comments were made in that report about that, obviously about his memory that we don't believe lives in reality. 80's the new 40, didn't you hear? He is as sharp as ever. They are cheap fakes video. They are done in bad faith.
And it's not true, right? The president wasn't wandering.
Is anyone in the White House hiding information about the president's health or his ability to do the job day to day?
Absolutely not.
He's the president of the United States. I can't even keep up with him.
To be fair, Karine Jean-Pierre often seems like a prepared voice for structured communication, aiming to balance inquiries with consistent messaging. Yet moments arise where direct questions challenge her ability to stay on track, leading to intricate, looping explanations.
Yeah, you couldn't keep up with Joe. Sorry, Joe couldn't keep up with FDR in the 100-yard dash. And I'm talking right now. Damn. But she expected us to believe she couldn't keep up with the guy who had to have an electric fence put up around the White House so he wouldn't in the neighbor's yard.
Greg Gutfeld, with his quick wit and articulate remarks, added an energetic perspective to the interaction. His focus on straightforwardness occasionally highlighted the need for clearer communication, bringing a fresh lens to the discourse.
So was Karine too dumb to notice Biden was a mess, or was she just dishonest? Pick your poison, moron or mercenary. Now there's a great name for her book. I'm going with mercenary, because this whole book tour didn't spring from a burst of guilt. According to Politico, she was copying her publicist on emails while still press secretary. So she was planning this from the podium. She's like a pilot who puts on his parachute and oxygen mask while your plane's leaving the airport.
Where it's due, no one redirects a question quite like Karine. If evasion were an Olympic sport, she'd be the gold medalist every time. Gutfeld offered commentary, and the situation seemed to escalate without much effort. Instead of clear answers, her responses often looped back without reaching a clear conclusion. Gutfeld didn't need dramatics, just a sharp wit and a well-placed observation to make the exchange memorable. Watching her responses unfold felt like trying to untangle a complex concept with no clear endpoint. Her consistent approach revolves around general responses, hoping the topic resolves without follow-ups.
It wasn't a crisis of faith, it was a business plan. She didn't leave the Democrat Party. She managed her exit like Pelosi dumping stocks before she signs the corporate tax hike. She was even pining for a spot on The View, which is like angling for the best seat in a garbage truck. But she didn't get the gig, probably because she refused their lunch bucket of thawed mackerel. That's what you feed the talent at SeaWorld.
This pattern isn't new. Karine Jean-Pierre has often leaned into a cautious, evasive style of communication. Her approach involves staying prepared with materials that seem impressive, but sometimes lack immediate relevance. Gutfeld's lighthearted remarks highlighted the gap between messaging and clarity without exaggeration. Statements about secure borders or economic growth often raise questions when juxtaposed with observable challenges. Reality sometimes appears sidelined in favor of maintaining the official narrative.
Oh, even the most reliable lefties are roasting her, but it serves him right. After all, she was their pick, a historic first. Black, lesbian, and board certified by visiting angels. But you know it's bad when DC operatives call it a grift. Hell, that's like Taylor Swift calling you a 6. But they say that she was ineffectual, unprepared, needed to be coddled, and couldn't manage a team. What's that sound like? DEI. What happens when you hire someone based on identity and not merit?
Her strategy often relies on redirecting accountability elsewhere, painting challenges as external and unrelated to current policies. Even hypothetical scenarios would likely be framed with external blame. Gutfeld allowed her statements to unfold without interruption, letting her elaborate without steering the conversation. Her answers, though detailed, often loop without fully addressing the core question. The broader approach appears to rely on prolonged dialogue, which sometimes makes the original inquiry fade into the back.
Personally, I think what was the toughest thing to see in the 3 weeks was there was a disconnect for me. What was happening with leadership in the Democratic Party and how it was truly, as my former colleague, communications director Ben LeBolt said, it was a firing squad, and I had never seen anything like it.
Confidence in delivery is a hallmark of Karine's briefings, even when answers lack substance. Her efforts to simplify complex issues occasionally feel oversimplified, leading to confusion about the intended message. Gutfeld's reserved yet observant demeanor contrasted sharply, emphasizing gaps in clarity. While her tone often suggests control, the content sometimes reflects uncertainty, creating a disconnect between delivery and substance.
The president has done more to secure the border and to deal with this issue of immigration than anybody else. He really has.
There's a word for that. Pathological.
Moments of inspiration occasionally shine through, but attempts to project gravitas often miss the mark. Her statements can sound broad and abstract rather than focused and actionable. Gutfeld's commentary provided a contrasting lens, reflecting on how communication impacts perception. Attempts to balance optimism with challenges sometimes feel misaligned, as efforts to maintain composure overshadow direct responses. Observers often focus on the larger picture, where clear communication could bridge the gap between message and understanding.
Need to stop thinking in boxes. But as a black, lesbian, French, Haitian female, she checks more boxes than a gynecologist.
On the order form!
On the order form!
Oh my God!
All those applications you gotta fill out.
That's the thing.
Would you think I meant vaginas?
Ew.
Disgusting people. But now everyone says she's incompetent and lazy. You know, after they called me racist for saying that. That's not why I'm racist.
Nope.
Gutfeld doesn't need a formal stage. One clip of Karine is enough for his commentary to take flight. Her approach to addressing challenges often feels more like reset and hope for the best, while her handling of critiques revolves around evasion. Her signature phrases like "we remain steadfast" echo motivational slogans rather than actionable policies. She often seems stuck in a cycle of pauses and generalized responses. Gutfeld didn't need theatrics. Karine's delivery often provided the material itself. If this administration were a sitcom, Karine would be the character delivering cryptic messages while inadvertently becoming the comic relief. and Gutfeld would amplify the humor with sharp observations. Each press conference feels like navigating a conversation without clear conclusions. Gutfeld's approach highlighted the lack of direction with understated wit, allowing Karine's statements to unravel without interruption. Her messaging can feel disjointed, with answers that sometimes stray far from the original question. The issue isn't about viewpoints but effectiveness. Karine's attempts often appear more like performances than clear communication. Gutfeld, armed with concise observations and a grounded perspective, pointed out inconsistencies without needing to escalate. By now, Karine Jean-Pierre's briefings have taken on a unique form, mixing layered responses with occasional diversions. Direct questions about policy often yield responses that pivot to unrelated topics. The result is a blend of rhetoric and metaphor that sometimes obscures the main issue. While her delivery remains confident, it occasionally lacks the clarity needed to reassure or inform. Gutfeld's commentary reflected this dynamic, not through aggressive critique but by emphasizing the gaps in coherence. In the end, the focus isn't solely on Gutfeld countering Karine's arguments, but rather on the broader issue that her responses often generate more questions than they resolve. Every interaction highlights the growing divide between polished delivery and substantive communication, raising concerns about the purpose and effectiveness of such exchanges. Karine's ability to present information with confidence is evident, but confidence alone cannot mask a lack of clarity or the absence of direct, actionable answers. Her responses sometimes meander through generalities, leaving the audience searching for concrete takeaways. This pattern underscores a deeper challenge: the need for public discourse to prioritize transparency and accountability over performance and rhetoric. While Gutfeld's commentary may focus on the gaps in her approach, it ultimately reflects a frustration shared by many, an expectation for answers that align with the complexities of the issues at hand, delivered with both precision and depth. The interactions between Karine and her critics are emblematic of a larger dynamic in modern communication: the tension between maintaining a composed narrative and addressing the pressing concerns of the moment. In this context, Gutfeld's remarks serve less as a critique of Karine herself and more as a reflection of the audience's desire for straightforward, meaningful dialogue in an increasingly complex and fast-paced world.